The check bounced. Are you sure?
Well, the past few months have kind of been slow. Sparks of Hope DLC didn't do as well as we'd hoped, and...
Fish?
G'day Earthlings, Dr. Rank here, and welcome to Gaming Legends, the show where we swap out 3D glasses for 3D contact lenses. At the time of this recording, 3 different people have explored the theoretical concept of a coinless run in stereoscopic 3D. But personally, I don't care about the theoretical concept. I care about actually doing it. Can you beat Super Mario 3D Land without collecting any coins? Our goal is incredibly simple. Start a new game and reach the end of World 8 while keeping the coin counter at 0 the entire time. If a coin is ever collected, we must immediately load a prior save. The only way to do this is to quit from the pause menu while in a level, which takes you directly to the title screen without autosaving, or in scenarios where that's not possible, close the game via the home button and relaunch it. A coinless run, you say? Then how do you collect the star coins? Good question, Cedric, and my response is, what star coins? The completionist collectible in 3D Land is called a star medal. You can tell it's not a coin because it's octagonal and has parts of it that aren't gold, just like the comet medals in Galaxy 2. However, while the star medals themselves are allowed, collecting an infinite supply of them through Street Pass mystery boxes is banned. To be on the safe side, make sure you delete the game's Street Pass data from the system settings and use an existing save file to clear out the Street Pass notifications before starting. And finally, the assist power-ups you get for dying too often are allowed, but any use of them will be considered a demerit. Without further ado, let the run begin! Worlds 1-1 is mostly pretty simple, but it still has numerous instances of coins trying to interfere. Every block, dandelion, and patch of grass has the potential to end the run without warning, so try not to touch anything without absolute certainty that it doesn't have a coin. Not that you should ignore everything though. Star medals are needed to unlock certain levels, with the final level requiring 100 total. We'll need to actively seek them out whenever possible, but thankfully all 3 star medals in 1-1 are trivial. Just after the checkpoint flag is a tail Goomba who, instead of dropping a coin when defeated, drops a Super Leaf power-up. Tanuki Mario has the ability to hover in the air and slow his descent, making coin dodging much easier. At the end of the level lies our biggest roadblock. Touching the flagpole is how we finish a level, but doing so normally gives you coins. Fortunately, touching the very top of the flagpole gives you a 1-up instead of coins, and doing so is trivial with the Tanuki suit. It's not quite that simple though. Before returning to the map screen, the game gives you a time bonus, awarding 1 coin for every 10 seconds left on the timer. In order to make this run possible, we have to touch the top of the flagpole with 9 seconds or less remaining in every single level. Considering most levels start with 300 or 400 seconds, that's gonna be a lot of waiting. But don't worry, I've got a secret strategy to make time go faster.
Hold it!
World 1-2 contains our first Fire Flower, which will be extremely useful. Enemies usually contain coins, and most attack methods deposit them directly into your account. Fire Mario's fireballs are an exception, causing the coin to fall on the ground where it will eventually despawn. And we don't have to worry about losing the Super Leaf, as it will be stored on the touchscreen where we can get it out at any time. Star Medal 1 has a few coins surrounding it, but with some proper timing we can easily grab it. Star Medal 3 is above an inky piranha plant, which I recommend taking out with a fireball first. The warp pipe leading to the flagpole has a coin near its mouth, and it's too close for us to avoid. Luckily, 1-2 also contains a secret exit via this orange warp pipe, which leads directly to World 2 without giving any timer coins. This does mean we miss out on all the remaining star medals from World 1, but we're not in danger of missing the quota just yet. In World 2-1, Star Medal 1 has several rows of coins beneath it, but if we do a crouch jump with Tanuki Mario, we can just hover straight over them. Star Medal 2 is in a warp pipe guarded by a piranha plant, so we'll have to swap back to Fire Mario to take it out. Star Medal 3 also has a few coins guarding it, but we can just hover over from the Goomba cutout. Make sure you take out all the enemies surrounding the flagpole. If an enemy is too close when you finish, they'll reward your pacifism with a direct deposit. World 2-2 is our first major challenge, featuring tons of coins on snake panels that we have to hover past. The last section can be bypassed easily by hitching a ride on the flying question mark block. Star Medal 3 requires us to do a very precise wall jump. It needs to be high enough to reach the platform, but not so high that we hit the coins above. The flagpole is a bit more problematic though. We have to use fireballs on the Paragoombas to prevent them from becoming coins, but we can't just throw them willy-nilly. There are some flowers at the base of the flagpole with the blue ones containing coins. If we burn these beautiful blue blossoms, the bounty is bound for our bank account, bypassing our body. We have to aim our fireballs with extreme caution, making sure they hit the Paragoomba first. When aiming for the top of the flagpole, you'll want to activate the exclamation switch at around the 15-second mark. Up next is the World 2 mystery box, which we have to attempt in order to progress. Taking out all the enemies and or cutouts makes a star medal appear, but also causes it to rain coins everywhere. We could just wait out the timer, but then we wouldn't get the star medal, would we? The layout of the coins is random, but always leaves at least a couple gaps, and the star medal will be easier to grab if we hover over it. Once a mystery box is done, you'll have to wait 24 hours before a new one can appear at that location. For World 2-3, you'll want to enter the level with Tanuki Mario, as he's the only one that can use these flywheels to reach Star Medals 1 and 3. The latter is a bit harder to reach, being sandwiched between a coin and a coin ring, the latter of which is worth 5 coins. Fortunately, we can just barely grab it with a tailspin while leaving ourselves just as poor as before. Star Medal 2, meanwhile, is below a coin ring and above a bottomless pit. The only way to survive after grabbing it is to fly upwards with the propeller box, but this sends you directly into the coin ring, making this the first truly impossible star medal. World 2-4 has 1 star medal in a bonus area in the clouds, which is littered with coins. I highly recommend using 3D mode for this area so you can accurately judge the depth of each cloud. This is less viable if you're using a 2DS, but not impossible. You'll also want to be careful with Star Medal 3, as these panels flip whenever Mario jumps. I recommend jumping from the red panel onto the flying question mark block to reach the star medal. Completing 2-4 opens up both the World 2 Toad House and the World 2 Airship. The former contains an extra power-up that we can come back for if need be, while the latter is our ticket to the next world. The airship is an auto-scroller, so you'll want to hang back a bit so you can see the coins coming. When going for Star Medal 1, make sure you enter the warp box with Tanuki Mario so you can immediately hover away from the coins. Star Medal 3 is also absolutely surrounded by coins, but there is still barely enough space to land safely. The boss fight against Boom Boom is fairly trivial, though make sure you keep your distance after the final blow. When Boom Boom is defeated, he'll always scatter coins in a wide radius around his corpse, regardless of the method of death. If any land on the pipe, wait for them to despawn. When coming out of the pipe, make sure you hover to avoid the clock, otherwise you'll have to wait an extra 100 seconds to finish the stage. World 3-1 lets us get Star Medal 1 with a very precise cannon launch, though beware the coin ring up there. At the back of the level is a single block containing a propeller box, and I highly recommend taking it. You'll have to wait a slightly longer eternity at the goal than usual, since the level starts with 600 seconds on the timer, but that should give you plenty of time to finish the magical turnabout. World 3-2 is primarily an underwater level, which is where Fire Mario truly gets to shine. I do not recommend hitting this P-switch though, as it will give you a golden surprise. Just after the checkpoint is a line of coins in a narrow tunnel, but we can just barely squeeze behind them. We can't, however, squeeze past these coins under the eel, making Star Medal 2 impossible. Once you get to the land near Star Medal 3, swap back to Tanuki Mario so you can more easily reach the flagpole. The photo album Toad House opens up at this point, which houses no special collectibles. I should warn you, however, that you should not, under any circumstances, blow into the microphone. World 3-3 was a tricky one. Star Medal 1 is at the top of this room, and the only path up is with some brick blocks with coins on top of them. Luckily, if you stand on top of the pipe, crouch jump, and then wall jump, you can just barely hover over to the Star Medal while still remaining penniless. I also do not recommend grabbing the Superstar, as defeating enemies while invincible gives you coins automatically. The most stressful part came when it was time to finish the level. The path to the top of the flagpole is made exclusively of donut blocks which fall away as soon as Mario steps on them. Not only that, but the ones at the end have a coin in the dead center. Thankfully, if we jump off a donut block as it starts falling, we can hover over to the next one in the set, then jump and hover again, landing just after the original donut block respawns. There's no time for courtroom drama in this one. You'll need to keep doing this for a good 3 minutes straight, making sure to land on the edge of the middle donut block to avoid the coin. Very stressful, but ultimately possible. World 3-4 has a shortcut right at the start, but that shortcut requires the use of a hidden block with a coin in it. You'll have to take the long way around. Star Medal 1 is atop this tree, and the only way to reach the tightrope is with this trampoline. There is a coin there, but it's just barely close enough to the edge to avoid. Make sure not to grab the star in Star Medal 2's area, so you don't have to worry about collateral damage. After taking the warp box, there's a tightrope with a super mushroom on it. Grabbing a super mushroom while you already have 2 power-ups transforms it into 10 coins, so avoid it like the plague. At the goal, you'll want to wait on top of the flying question block so you don't have to accidentally hit it from below. World 3-5 is completely optional, so we head straight to the World 3 airship. This level introduces bob-ombs, which are the only enemy type that contain no coins whatsoever. Star Medal 3 appears on the final ship near the goal, which means you'll have to dodge the coins on the bow, but it's perfectly doable, unlocking World 4. World 4-1 is one of the more challenging levels when going for all the Star Medals. Star Medal 2 is in another coin-littered cloud section, and the coins are too close to the edge of the platform to walk on them. There is thankfully a propeller box at the top of this tree at the start of the level. However, there's a flock of parabitty buds surrounding the flagpole, and you're not allowed to throw fireballs while wearing the propeller box. That means you'll have to reach the goal without it, which requires you to burn the piranha plants on this windmill, take out the parabitty buds, then backtrack to the start to grab the propeller box and use that to clear the bonus area. On the bright side, there will be a much shorter wait at the goal. After dealing with another mystery box, we arrive at World 4-2. This level is littered with Goomba towers blocking the path in a few places. You'll have to individually burn each Goomba in the tower to get past. Near the end of the level is a trampoline with several columns of coins directly above it, and this path is the only way through. Thankfully, we can skip this trampoline by doing some wall jumps with Tanuki Mario, letting us climb up to the next trampoline. This also lets us reach the secret exit, skipping ahead all the way to World 5. And what a doozy this world is! World 5-1 introduces the Boomerang Flower, which is objectively the worst power-up in this run. A thrown boomerang causes enemies to drop their coins just like a fireball, but it can also collect any item it touches, making it extremely risky. The elevator in the second half of the level was extremely stressful. There's a boomerang bro here that drops a boomerang flower when defeated, but I didn't want to hurt him in case I accidentally lost my super leaf or fire flower. Turns out that was the wrong call, because if a spike ball destroys a bro's boomerang, it turns into a coin and boomerangs into your bank account. Any other enemy, meanwhile, including the spike balls themselves, will just drop their wallet on the spot. But then came the end of the level. In order to reach the top of the flagpole, you need to use this cannon. The problem is, the ideal trajectory takes you directly through a coin ring. Any lower or to the side and you'll either miss the top or miss the flagpole altogether. Luckily, if you aim directly above the coin ring, you'll just barely miss it while just barely grabbing the 1-up. Then there's World 5-2. This level is designed like a Zelda dungeon with very low doorways between each room. Before even reaching the first star medal, there's this doorway with a coin right in the middle. I tried every conceivable angle, including transforming into Small Mario, but nothing worked. As far as anyone has been able to figure out, it is absolutely impossible to go through this doorway without collecting any coins. Luckily, nobody cares. Using the torches at the start of the level, we can intentionally take damage and lose a life. If we lose 5 lives in a row, an assist block containing an invincibility leaf appears, giving you the same powers as Tanuki Mario plus permanent invisibility. This is completely useless to us. But if we lose 10 lives in a row, we get another assist block with a P-Wing. This item gets stored on the touchscreen, and upon using it, Mario gets teleported straight to the goal. Unfortunately, using the P-Wing has a few side effects. First, we lose whatever reserve item we had, so make sure you get out the Super Leaf before collecting it. Second, just making the assist blocks appear causes the stars on our save file to no longer be shiny, which is why I didn't want to use it unless I had to. And finally, skipping the level also means skipping its star medals. So to kill time while waiting for the timer to drop, I backtracked through the level to grab them. I could get star medal 3 by doing a precise long jump over these 2 coins, but the coins in the doorway beyond are just too close. So we'll be finishing 5-2 with only 1 star medal and no fire flower. World 5-3 is optional, but World 5-4 is not. This level is home to Monty Moles and Morty Moles, which fully block almost every tunnel. Fortunately, the Morty Moles can survive being jumped on once without giving any coins, letting us use this one as a trampoline to dodge a coin-covered ledge. You'll want to go back to a Toad House or previous level to grab a new fire flower so you can deal with the moles that can't be dodged, as well as take out this one at the goal. Then we get to World 5-5. The majority of the level is focused on the propeller box, so it doesn't have any major obstacles. But of course, the ending changes that. The goal is surrounded by several Parabitty buds, one of which happens to be blocking the top of the flagpole. If we ditch the propeller box by taking damage, we can use the nearby wooden block to act as a flame-throwing sentry turret. The problem is, the red Parabitty bud blocking the goal is just barely too far away. The fireball fizzles out before it can reach. There is, however, one singular strategy that can get past here. Long jump towards the goal as Fire Mario, then throw a fireball at the last seconds to just barely kill the Parabitty bud before hitting the flagpole. At this point, we've collected 52 star medals, which is 2 more than we need to open the World 5 castle. This level has almost no coins to worry about, even when going for all the star medals. Just try not to take damage while fighting Tail Bowser and you'll be fine. Immediately after defeating him though, make sure you spin the toads with a Tanuki tail. If you fail to do this, the run is forfeit. World 6-1 is pretty chill overall, but the goal presents a major issue. The bridge has a series of infinitely respawning Porcupuffers that are too close to the flagpole to avoid being cornified. You can take them out with a fireball, but they'll just keep coming. Fortunately, you can take out the Porcupuffer the instant it spawns, and it will give you just barely enough time to reach the flagpole. I recommend placing your Super Leaf on the top step in advance, though for some reason when I did that, the Porcupuffers stopped spawning altogether. I don't know why it did that, but hey, I'm not complaining. World 6-2 has a coin sneakily hidden in the back wall here, so make sure you hover over it. Star Medal 2 is behind a brick block that is very close to a coin, and the Tanuki spin will probably collect it. Switch to Fire Mario and do a roll into the brick block instead. Hover over one last gauntlet through coin-covered spikes, and you're home free. World 6-3 is our first Ghost House. The main method of choosing a path at the start is with the teleporting platform, which overlaps with one coin and gets additional coins added as we complete each path. Thankfully, we can just wall jump and hover into each painting, or hover down after returning to this room. The piano room has a P-switch that makes a bunch of coins appear, but it also spawns the star medal, so we don't have much choice. When you get to the Big Boo in the library, walk right up to its face and do a high jump off the rope to hover past him. Don't jump too far to the left though, or you'll hit a hidden block. The top of the flagpole can only be reached by using these teleporting platforms, all of which have coins above them. Luckily, we can just barely stand on the corner without touching any of them. After clearing the mystery box on the first try, we come to World 6-4. The only tricky part with this level is making it past the coins on these stairs, but it's nothing some crouch jumps couldn't deal with. World 6-5 is optional, letting us skip straight to the airship. This one has some very scary coins on the vertical section, but we can just barely avoid them by hugging the foreground. Pom Pom is only slightly harder than Boom Boom, as her boomerangs can drop coins, but she's still a pushover. Unfortunately, while trying to go for the infinite one-up trick, I lost my Tanuki suit, meaning I couldn't dodge the clock at the goal. That meant I had to wait an extra 100 seconds before entering World 7. World 7-1 does let you skip to the end just by using a Tanuki hover, but that means more time spent in court. To keep ourselves busy, we can hunt down all 3 star medals in the water. The vertical coins here are tough to dodge, but we can just barely squeeze past. World 7-2 is barely worth mentioning, and World 7-3 is completely optional. What isn't optional though is World 7-4. The intended path through the clock takes us into this hallway of economic claustrophobia. The walls are too narrow to go around the coins, and the ceiling is too low to go over. You could try doing several back-to-back wall jumps as Small Mario to squeeze past, but why work harder when you can work smarter? Head back to the trio of moving platforms on the clock face and equip the Tanuki suit. Start running around the platform, then jump to the left the exact millisecond it starts moving. This should give you just barely enough height to wall jump up to the ledge with the warp box. And in more good news, the amount of time spent on failed attempts means you'll actually be low on time at the flagpole for once. After that nightmare, there's not much that World 7-5 can throw at us, though I did find a hidden one-up mushroom that I didn't know about. The World 7 airship is another auto-scroller with tons of rotating platforms with coins on them and several Magikoopas shooting at you every which way. Tanuki Mario is absolutely essential for this one, though you will want Fire Mario to take out the Rocky Wrench on the pipe. In the boss fight, try to execute Pom Pom first so you have less boomerangs to deal with, though my attempts managed to kill them both at once. With that, we can enter the final world. World 8-1 was absolute child's play, though I did have to hover into the final warp box to dodge the coins. The section immediately after was tailor-made for a certain Bandicoot, and while the coins are much harder to see coming, hugging the side of the path keeps you in the clear. I also missed Star Medal 3 in this level because I forgot about it. World 8-2 ramps the difficulty back up, with the main gimmick being these poles on rails, which are of course covered in coins. The first one can be cleared just by hugging the top of the pole, while the second is a bit more complicated. You need to grab onto it quickly, go under the first coins, then bob and weave through the next few. Both this pole and the next one have a trail of coins on the right side at the exit, so you'll need to jump off the front and hover around them. World 8-3 is optional, and World 8-4 is a ghost house centered on moving platforms. The one leading to the top of the flagpole has a coin in the middle, but we can just barely trigger it from the edge. World 8-5 has a star medal inside a mystery box which contains Rocky Wrenches that throw coins everywhere. Equip the Fire Flower before entering it, then burn them all up as fast as possible before collecting it. You'll also want to take out the normal Rocky Wrench at the goal, then wait out the timer on his platform. With 97 out of 90 star medals, we can take on World 8 Bowser. Star Medal 1 is on a pole with coins above it and lava beneath it, so I didn't bother with it. Be careful when triggering the P-switch at the checkpoint. If you're not in the dead center of the switch, you'll fall victim to a golden ambush. There's a few coins on the platforms leading to the Bowser fight that can surprise you, but they're nothing to worry about. With Bowser's defeat, you've officially rescued Princess Peach's cardboard body double. We're all so proud of you. World 8-6 has some coin-covered hamster wheels that we need to hug the edge of, but nothing particularly major. That is until this platform, which we have to run around in order to raise it. You can just barely do it by hugging the inner corner, but it is highly stressful. And with that, we've collected 101 total star medals from all the required levels, which is just barely enough to enter the final level, World 8 Bowser 2. Since we don't need star medals anymore, we can focus on just staying alive until we reach the end. Make sure you land on this platform in the corner and shoot the cannon to the left of this coin ring. The only coins in the final Bowser battle to worry about are these Paragoombas on the tightrope, which you can safely burn. Once you hit the final Bowser switch, the timer ceases to exist, making this the one level where you can head for the flagpole immediately. With Princess Peach safely rescued and Mario poorer than his wildest dreams, the Super Mario 3D Land coinless run is officially conquered. Of course, you guys still have a chance to ruin the run by giving me money at patreon.com/drrank08 or by signing up for YouTube memberships. The rewards are small, but so are the prices, and you'll be directly supporting me. Before I go, shout out to Steve Gaming, Mayro, and Nico BBQ, all of whom made their own videos about a 3D Land coinless run that I used as reference. Nico even took it a step further and tried doing all the special worlds. I personally don't have time for that, as I need to get out some videos that YouTube will actually show you. And to that end, I've got a challenge of titanic proportions that should hopefully bring back my mojo. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. That's all for now, and I will see you down under.